Hello again, everybody, it's me, that guy who tells you the release dates for upcoming games as well as a bunch of bad jokes, esoteric trivia, and random asides that nobody actually asked for. The year is 3/4 finished, but video game release season is only getting started, so here are 2025's biggest game releases still to come. Before we get started, the usual disclaimer that we do our best to make these videos accurate and up to date, but game release dates do get shuffled around, and also this video in particular is more of a broad overview of what the next 3.5 months have in store, and we're not able to cover every single game release, so for more comprehensive updates, check back for our monthly videos where we have more games each month. Now, on to the games. On September 16th, Skate hits early access, and in case you haven't been keeping track, this is the long-awaited new installment in EA's beloved open-world skateboarding series, which is now live service and free-to-play, and as icky as that sounds, everything else I've heard about this game is kinda great. I'm told it plays like a cross between Spider-Man and Forza Horizon, except with skateboards. Also, it takes place in a fictional city called San Vansterdam that I'm guessing is a cross between San Francisco, Vancouver, and Amsterdam, which I'm guessing is 720 and 420 friendly. Sounds lit, fellow kids. You can blaze some pop shove-its and dank fakies on PC, all the PlayStations, and all the Xboxes currently on the market. If you'd prefer an open world game with lots of acrobatics where everyone is considerably less chill and probably trying to eat your face, Dying Light the Beast hits PC, PS5, and Xbox Series on the 19th, which turns you loose in a zombie apocalypse that you can traverse with the series' trademark freestyle walking, or as the French like to call it, le parkour. Parkour! If you just want some effing peace and quiet, well, there's also Silent Hill F. Though I have a hunch that between the somber and suspenseful stretches, you will inevitably encounter some horrible things making loud noises, which you may respond to by making some loud noises yourself. What the F is the F for? You can F out for yourself on Xbox Series F and F, PS5, and PC on the 25th. That very same day, we're finally getting Hades 2 version 1.0. This has been in early access on Steam for a while now, but now it is the real deal, and even better, it's coming to consoles, launching as a timed exclusive on Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, with Xbox and PlayStation versions coming at a later, undisclosed date. Also on the 25th is a mascot racer that may very well give Mario Kart a run for its money. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is coming to Nintendo Switch 2, as well as everything else, and in addition to CrossWorlds, it also supports cross-play and cross-saves, and no shortage of crossovers. The usual Sonic roster is getting a slew of DLC guest characters from other properties like Persona, Minecraft, Like a Dragon, SpongeBob, and Pac-Man, just to name a few. On September 30th, the formerly VR exclusive Alien Rogue Incursion gets a conventional non-VR overhaul with the Evolved Edition, which is coming to PS5 and PC. Be forewarned, this is only part one of a two-part story, something that caught players off guard when it first dropped, though it was otherwise received pretty well. Still on the 30th, Final Fantasy Tactics gets a fresh coat of paint with the Ivalice Chronicles. This retools the fan favorite and critically acclaimed 1997 turn-based strategy spin-off of the beloved JRPG series with some modern HD graphics, quality of life improvements, and full voice acting. That's on everything except Xbox One. October kicks off properly with Ghosts and Monsters Abound, though maybe not quite the spooky variety you would expect. On the 2nd, Ghost of Yotei hits PS5, offering more cute animals, scenic vistas, and gruesome vengeance in a feudal Japanese open world courtesy of Sucker Punch Studios. This will undoubtedly have some mechanical similarities to Ghost of Tsushima, but if you slept on that one, don't sweat it, because Yotei takes place roughly 400 years after and 1,000 miles away from its predecessor, so you can jump in here and you'll be fine. Originally, that Ghosts and Monsters line made sense because I went from Ghost of Yotei to the new Digimon game, but then at the last minute Nintendo went and announced that they're remastering Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and those are coming out on October 2nd for Switch 1 and 2. They've got improved resolution, UI, a new music player, and you can opt out of motion controls and just use good old-fashioned sticks and buttons. You can buy those together as a physical edition or individually, digitally, if you so desire. A day later, you can do the Monster Mash.
He did the Monster Mash.
with some monsters of a digital variety in Digimon's story Time Stranger. This is the first installment in the RPG sub-series in 8 years, which promises an epic story, plenty of creatures to train, and it's rated T for teen because it features a wine-drunk Digimon named Bacchusmon. That's not a joke, that's what it says on the ESRB website. That's coming to PC, PS5, and in a franchise first, Xbox Series. Your move, Pokemon. Maybe Monster Ranger can buy you some tall boys. For this video, we are generally skipping re-releases of games that already came to other platforms, but we're gonna make an exception for Borderlands 4. By the time this video is up, that is probably out for PC, Xbox Series, and PS5, and October 3rd, you can grab it for Nintendo Switch 2 as well. On October 10th, an appropriately creepy game drops in time for Halloween, the long-awaited Little Nightmares 3. This latest installment in the puzzle platformer should have plenty of tricks, treats, and pint-sized frights as it's developed by Supermassive Games, a studio with plenty of experience doing big kid horror in the Until Dawn and Dark Pictures series. That's coming to basically everything. I know I just said no re-releases.
You can't keep getting away with it!
But if you slept on the original Little Nightmares, that's getting an enhanced edition that same day as well for Xbox Series, PS5, Switch 2, and PC. October 10th is also the release of a twee offbeat indie game you might have heard some early buzz about. It's called Battlefield 6, and it follows 4 estranged childhood friends as they team up to renovate a funky old apartment building and learn some valuable lessons about teamwork, personal responsibility, and drywall along the way. Okay, so I'm half kidding, but you can get the squad back together and do your share of environmental demolition in EA and DICE's latest entry in the long-running shooter series, which is shaping up to be less of a fixer-upper than the last few installments have been. Fingers crossed, that's coming to Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. On October 16th, Xbox dips its big toe into the handheld gaming space with the release of the Asus ROG Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X, an Xbox-branded answer to the Steam Deck or Lenovo Legion. I say Xbox is dipping a toe in there because, as you probably guessed, this is as much an Asus ROG device as it is an Xbox handheld. I'm curious if we're ever going to see a fully Microsoft manufactured version of this thing, but at the very least, it sounds like Microsoft is focusing on the software side of things and developing a tweaked version of Windows that is better streamlined for handheld gaming PCs. Hopefully that also benefits players using similar non-Xbox branded devices that use the same operating system, because I have a sneaking suspicion that most people aren't buying these devices to make use of Windows 11's productivity features. Calculator, get the f out of here. I want to play Baldur's Gate. Still on the 16th, Pokémon Legends ZA hits both the Switches and continues the open-world action RPG sub-series that began with 2022's Arceus. If you were rubbed the wrong way that Arceus was a period piece that had you using a papered Pokédex and magic fruit instead of Pokéballs, that sounds ludicrous, I don't know who thought that up. Rest assured, this takes place in the believable futuristic utopia of Lumio City. You might recall paying it a visit way back in Pokémon X and Y, but it's probably gotten a bit gentrified since then, though there are also rogue mega evolutions roaming the streets, so maybe that balances it out. If you prefer Tyrannosaurs and Pterodactyls to Tyrannotars and Aerodactyls, you can train some terrible lizards in Jurassic World Evolution 3, the latest entry in the simulation series from the folks behind Planet Coaster and Zoo Tycoon. Clearly, this has found an audience if it's already getting a third installment, but there's something extremely funny to me that a movie franchise about disastrous theme park management and science gone awry has been successfully adapted into a game where you keep a dinosaur theme park running smoothly. And like everything works out okay. That's like if you made a game based on the movie Speed, where you just drove a normal, non-explosive bus safely while observing traffic laws. Or a game based on Die Hard, where you attended your estranged wife's office Christmas party and reconciled your marital problems without throwing any East German terrorists out of a window. Anyway, Jurassic World Evolution
finds a way.
On Xbox Series, PS5, and PC, October 21st.
There it is.
If you wish I'd cut the crap and get through these game releases a little faster, well, you can cut through lots of crap extremely fast in Ninja Gaiden 4. Team Ninja and Platinum Games have gotten the gang back together for the first mainline installment in 13 years, which is shaping up to be true to form with lots of slicing, dicing, boss fights, blood splatter, and a dash of jiggle physics, which is bound to resonate with everyone's inner 12-year-old who wasn't even born when Ninja Gaiden 3 came out. That's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. If you've got a different kind of bloodlust, specifically a Vampire the Masquerade bloodlust, well, long-awaited follow-up to the PS2 era action RPG set in the World of Darkness is finally here, and man, I'm excited that it's finally coming out. Not so much because I'm a fan of the series, but because I'm a fan of not having to find new ways of talking about this game in these upcoming release videos, which I've had to do quite a few times in the last decade. This was originally slated for a March 2020 release before getting delayed to 2021, almost canceled, taken over by a new developer, given a new tentative release window, and then subsequently delayed several more times. Anyway, I hope it actually comes out this time, and I hope it's worth the wait for Vampire fans. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. On October 23rd, yet another beloved arcade classic gets a modern reinvention with Double Dragon Revive on both PlayStation's Xbox Series and PC. This brings together prolific old-school street-fighting men like Billy, Jimmy, Bimmy, Bobo, and maybe even Jeff, with some current-gen moves courtesy of Arc System Works, a studio that's got a black belt in brawling after making the Guilty Gear and BlazBlue games. On October 29th, you can indulge your inner space cadet in The Outer Worlds 2, which expands Obsidian's wacky sci-fi RPG universe and promises to give players even weirder outcomes for their worst decisions. For instance, if you make your character stare at the sun too much, you unlock a perk, sort of, that permanently distorts your vision in-game, but it will regenerate health while you're exposed to sunlight. Again, staring at the sun isn't a thing most people go out of their way to do in video games or otherwise, so I'm curious to see what other odd behavior this game rewards with quirky mechanics. That's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. On October 30th, Arc Raiders finally drops. This is a multiplayer extraction shooter from Embark Studios, the team behind the finals, which includes a bunch of ex-Battlefield folks. After a few early tech tests and public beta type events, there's quite a lot of positive buzz about Arc Raiders. It's a retro-futuristic, post-apocalyptic wasteland that's being terrorized by AI-controlled machines of various sizes called Arc, and it's up to players to raid them while avoiding other players who have the same objective and will therefore probably try to shoot you in the face. That's coming to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. On October 30th, we got another kind of double dragon on our hands with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, which is an incredibly clunky name for what's otherwise a very pretty makeover of a double feature of bona fide JRPG classics, which hopefully feel less clunky compared to their almost 40-year-old original versions. That's coming to PS5, Xbox Series, both the Switches, and PC. Finally in October, Terminator 2 gets a brand new retro-styled video game with Terminator 2D No Fate, which reimagines the 1991 action movie as an arcadey side-scroller experience that looks like it actually came out in 1991 as well. That is out on Halloween on basically everything, which is as good an excuse as any to show these pictures from a few years ago of me and my late dog Peppers dressed up as the T-800 and T-1000 respectively. I thought that turned out pretty well. Anyway, it's also a good excuse to rewatch the best movie of all time, which the former governor of California gave one thumb up. I know I said we were steering clear of ports and re-releases for this video, but I will make another exception for Satisfactory. This assembly line assembling sim has been a massive hit on Steam, and on November 4th, it is coming to Xbox Series and PS5, and hopefully the console experience is equally satisfactory. I'm sorry, they can't all be winners. On November 6th, you can act like a total Goron and rock out with your Korok out in Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, the third entry in the Zelda-themed spin on Dynasty Warriors, which, unlike the previous ones, is officially confirmed as a canonical prequel to Tears of the Kingdom, which means that it's true and it really happened in a video game series that is completely made up. One of the most harsh realizations I've had as an adult is most fictional universes aren't as meticulously planned out or organized as I believed when I was younger. George Lucas didn't know what was going on in every corner of the Star Wars expanded universe, or the regular Star Wars universe for that matter, and Chris Claremont didn't have 30 years of X-Men comics planned out in advance when he started writing them in the 1970s. He was probably just concerned with holding down a job. Of course, reading real-world actual history as an adult, it seems like nobody knows what they're doing at any point in time, and nothing goes according to plan, and it's amazing that anything ever gets done. Anyway, speaking of real-world history, on November 13th, Anno 117 Pax Romana roams on the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series, expanding Ubisoft's real-time strategy empire into the golden age of ancient Rome, letting you civically engineer colosseums, public forums, vomitoriums, and olive gardens to your heart's content. On the night of November 13th, be sure to hang a combat boot above the fireplace and leave a glass of milk and MREs out, because as soon as you go to sleep, Santa Cod is going to rappel down your chimney and breach your fireplace, and the next morning you can expect to find a copy of Black Ops 7 tactically placed under the ghillie suit you festively decorated with flashbangs. This is the latest entry, and it has a 7 in the title, but it's actually the 8th entry in the Black Ops sub-series, and if you think it's a direct continuation of last year's Black Ops 6, guess again. The latest campaign is a continuation of Black Ops 2, which was released in 2012, but took place in 2025, which is the year that it is right now, but the new game takes place a decade later. Did you get all that? Doesn't matter. Anyway, Black Ops 7 is coming to all the PlayStations, Xboxes, and PC on November 14th. On November 15th, Where Winds Meet finally makes its way to the West. This is yet another big, epic action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology, but it's doing a couple things to set itself apart. It's focusing on wuxia, the subgenre of martial arts films that feature people with even more supernatural abilities than your usual martial arts films, such as Ang Lee's Academy Award-winning Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. One of the worst things about that movie, which is otherwise very good, is that it is devoid of actual tigers or dragons, presumably because they're crouching and hidden, but Where Winds Meet looks to feature a bunch of silly animal stuff. Can you suplex a bear? I think so. Also, it is a 150-hour single-player RPG that's somehow free to play with cosmetic in-game purchases only, and it's got cross-progression between PS5, PC, and mobile. I don't know, I'll check it out. On November 18th, Marvel's Deadpool VR hits MetaQuest 3 and 3S, and you might say to yourself, well, obviously it's Marvel's Deadpool. What other Deadpool is there? And the actual answer to that is the 1988 film, The Deadpool, which predates Deadpool's first appearance in New Mutants number 98 by about a year and a half. It was the final entry in the Dirty Harry franchise, and that really doesn't have anything to do with much of this, but Deadpool VR is here to make your day, and don't you feel lucky, punk? This one's developed by Twisted Pixel, a studio with plenty of experience in the VR space, and with making games featuring smart-ass protagonists and offbeat superheroes such as Loco Cycle and Comic Jumper, so Deadpool seems like a pretty good fit. On November 20th, Kirby Air Riders hits Switch 2, the long-awaited follow-up to the 2003 GameCube racing game Kirby Air Ride. There's definitely a generation of fans who have a fondness for this one, and it comes courtesy of Super Smash Bros. Architect Masahiro Sakurai, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. That said, the 47-minute long Nintendo Direct that he put out didn't exactly get me hyped, and I can't help but feel like that presentation was either an immaculately subtle skewering of video game marketing or a cry for help that he got stuck making this game because someone in upper management told him he had to. But hey, maybe I'm way off and this will become the racing game equivalent of Smash and a massive hit among casual players and esports athletes alike that ushers in a golden age of fun and competitive play. If you want a normal racing game about regular cars not being driven by rotund pink cannibals, less than a week later you're in luck because Project Motor Racing comes to PC, Xbox Series, and PS5 on the 25th. This is a spiritual successor to the Project Cars games from some of the same devs who got shuffled around amidst EA's acquisition of their former parent company Codemasters, but most importantly, look at those cars! Vroom, 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 cars. Great job, everybody. Destiny already has a lot of Star Wars DNA, but if you've ever thought it should have more Star Wars DNA that's officially licensed by Lucasfilm while still not being a full-fledged Star Wars game, that is some I don't know where you got that from, but Bungie has decided to indulge your very specific desires.
You are in my very soul.
The Destiny 2 Renegades expansion drops December 2nd, and it'll have you squaring off against legally distinct evil empire of the non-galactic variety, some space wizards who aren't Sith Lords, and you're going to be using a laser sword that's not quite a lightsaber on desert, swamp, and ice planets that aren't actually Tatooine, Dagobah, and Hoth, but also aren't trying that hard to not be those planets. Somehow, this weirds me out even more than putting Beavis and Butthead in Call of Duty, or the actually real Fortnite crossover with that new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, but if it makes you happy, I'm happy for you. The world is a horrible place. We just gotta find the joy in all the little corners you can get it. So they made Star Wars flavored Destiny. Whatever, go for it.
Forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will.
On December 4th, Octopath Traveler follows in the footsteps of Dragon Quest with a threequel that's actually a prequel. Octopath Traveler 0 is a standalone entry that takes place before the first two games, and in addition to the usual JRPG stuff, it adds a bunch of city building mechanics that is on everything but Xbox One. And finally, also on December 4th, one of the most long-awaited and highly anticipated games of the year, which we weren't even sure was going to release this year because Nintendo held out so long with the release date, is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, that is coming to Switch and Switch 2, and it does in fact feature a motorcycle, as multiple third graders whose uncles work at Nintendo previously claimed. We thought they made that up, but it turns out it's real. Okay, that about does it for all the big games that currently have release dates, but there are a few more which are still saying they're going to drop in 2025, but they haven't told us when exactly. If you like first-person space exploration, Routine is another option which is expected in late 2025 on PC and the Xboxes, and it looks like a gorgeous, nearly photorealistic, and pants-shittingly creepy good time. I will not be playing this, but wowzers does it look nice. You see? The Wolf Among Us 2 is the long-awaited follow-up to one of Telltale's best-received series, published by the newly reformed Telltale Games and co-developed by Ad Hoc Studio, which was founded by a bunch of original Telltale vets. That's coming to everything whenever it comes out. Then, of course, there's The Wolf Among Us 2. Hey, did that sound familiar? Because that's a clip from this exact same video that we did last year for the biggest games still to come in 2024, and the B-roll in that was from a 2022 trailer that claimed that that game would be out in 2023. So at the risk of being the boy who cried wolf among us too, there's a chance that this game comes out in 2025, but don't go huffing and puffing and blowing houses down if it doesn't. Meanwhile, Ken Levine's BioShock follow-up Judas was at one point expected this year, but that seems pretty unlikely from where I'm sitting in this terribly uncomfortable IKEA chair. The same goes for Hello Games' follow-up to No Man's Sky, Light No Fire, which also never got a hard release date, but which some folks thought we might be playing before 2026. Again, doesn't seem likely. But again, anything is possible, and something that's really possible is that a major game gets released in 2025 that we didn't see coming, whether that's a stealth drop or some viral indie hit that takes the Steam charts by storm. If there is something you know of that's coming out in 2025 that we didn't touch on, please sound off in the comments below with any notable games worth checking out. And not to sound like your high school English teacher, but can you explain why? Can you give us some context? Like, why should people care about these games? Use complete sentences. Each answer is worth 5 points. Anyway, thank you to everyone who took the time to watch. If you want a more comprehensive look ahead of what's coming out in October, we have a whole video all about that coming out soon, and I should probably go write the script for that. So I'm gonna do that. You hang out and we'll make that video go up soon. See you later, everybody. Have a great 2025, what's left of it.